Good morning. Thank you again for joining us on our Exploring Career Pathways webinar. This webinar has been much requested previously, so we are excited to have incredible presenters join us today to talk about this. I am Samara Angel, and I am the Strategy Manager for Post-Secondary Access here at Alabama Possible. We would like to first thank and recognize our sponsors for supporting this work and making these webinars possible and providing support to you. Without their support, Alabama Possible could not provide these assistance without charging a cost. We would also like to thank our partners who work with the Alabama Commission on Higher Education, Alabama Community College System, the Alabama State Department of Education, Get Educated, the Common Black College Application, which helps promote and applying and enrolling at 65 historically Black colleges and universities. So some housekeeping notes before we get started. Please keep your microphones on mute at all times to avoid any feedback during the presentation. If you do have an AI note-taking tool, please disable these unless you need accommodations, and you can always directly send us a message to let us know. This webinar will be recorded and posted on YouTube/Alabama Possible so that you can always go back and view this presentation. You can always submit questions throughout the webinar, especially during our panel discussion. We encourage you to send as many questions as you have. Please always, just go ahead and make sure that the chat is for everyone. Lastly, we do have some poll questions we have poll questions during the beginning of the webinar, and then towards the end, if you are a high school educator and you are looking for professional development credit hours, make sure that you complete all the poll questions towards the end of presentation. And you will also see your professional development credit credentials that you need to enter to receive the credit. Just a reminder, we are in free college application week, so don't forget to tag us. If you have any students that have completed the match profile and you have pictures of them, videos of them with their offers, don't forget to tag us on social media at AL Goes to College, and also tag us in any of the following hashtags you see on the screen. So if you're new to the Alabama Goes to College campaign, we do have 3 components to this campaign. The Cash for College, which our goal is for every graduating senior to complete the FAFSA before they graduate from high school. We have the Alabama College Application Week, which is a part of a national effort to increase the number of first-generation college students and students from low-income families to pursue a college degree, higher education credential. And then the College and Career Decision Day, which celebrates students committing to pursuing their education past high school, whether it is to obtain a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, a certificate, or industry recognized credential, entering the military, or pursuing a skills trade. So to get started with our conversations this morning about exploring career pathways, we would like to take a moment to review part of the Alabama Career Development Model, which was introduced by the State Department of Education on October of 2022. The model provides targets by grade level as early as elementary school, and as well as suggested instructional strategies to meet those targets. So our main conversations today probably will focus on 11th and 12th grade. So these are the targets that are are suggested for grades 11 and 12. So target 1, continue to engage students and parents in 16 career clusters. Target 2, continue to build career pathways through academic subject matter and leadership experiences. Continue to build knowledge about career, education, and employment opportunities. Target 4, engage students and families in out-of-school activities to support career preparation. Target 5, update and utilize career planning assessments to finalize post-graduation plans. Target 6, we have assist students in course planning and continuing to acquire knowledge about careers, education, and employment opportunities. And then target 7, like the final review and updates to the personal education plan of study to meet the student current career and educational goal and interest. So May will help me out with poll questions. The first poll question is, what is one way you assist students in exploring career options? This is an open-ended question, so feel free to answer those.
Thank y'all for your responses. We'll review those and definitely be in touch, both in our follow-up email and then also in the future webinars that we provide around career resources. So we appreciate your feedback.
Thank you, May. Once again, if you did join us a little bit later and your school is not registered for the Alabama Goes to College campaign, we encourage you to do so at alabamapossible.org/register 2025 to 26. There is a link in the chat for you all to go ahead and register your school if they're not registered. So let me stop sharing my screen, and this we will start our conversations today. We do our webinar today would be more of a panel style. So I would encourage our panelists to, make this a conversational style like presentation. So I will like for us to start. So to the panelist, if you'll introduce your name, title, organization, and a brief description of your work. Fan, if you'll start us off, and then Dr. Payne, and then Dr. McCrillis.
Sure. I'm not sure why my Zoom has my first name twice, but I am Fawn Robinson. I'm the career coach for Selma City Schools. In my capacity, I expose the kids to career and college readiness, decision-making, and processes. Morning.
Morning.
I am Tamara Payne. I am the Associate Dean of Career and Learning Services at Jefferson State Community College. So administratively, a number of programs report to me. I work with GED students that are pursuing the non-traditional high school diploma. Also work with federal programs such as WIOA. For those of you that aren't as familiar with that, that is federal dollars that assist individuals with either short-term certificates, 2-year degrees and 4-year degrees. So the great news about WIOA, it's not college specific, it's program specific. Also work with Career Pathways, which is funding for short certificate programs, the Career Center, assisting students and community members with jobs, and a big buzzword now is wraparound support, which is going to be emergency grants, mental health services, peer-to-peer counseling. So anything that's in the support services or that may be federally funded in terms of scholarships and workforce dollars may fall under my supervision.
Good morning, I'm Ricky McCrillis. I'm a assistant director for external connections and student success. Also QEP co-director at the University of North Alabama. So two separate roles, but related. In the career role, of course, we focus on connecting students with employers. Our ultimate goal is to get our students jobs. So that's what we focus our time on. And leading up to that, of course, is developing them as individuals. Their resumes, their interview skills, their networking skills, those types of things that are going to hopefully help them be successful in connecting with those employers when we get them face to face with them. So that's kind of a short version of the career side. The QEP side, our QEP is experiential learning. So kind of tagging along with my career role is to assist students into getting into work-based type learning, internships, immersive learning, such as study abroad, study away, intern away, those type programs, research and creative activities, helping students to partner with faculty to participate in research. So getting hands-on real life research experience, and then service learning, participating in volunteer and service activities especially with nonprofit type organizations in the community, so that they get exposure and experience outside the classroom.
Thank you. So Fan, let's start with you. In your role, what exploratory activities are most impactful for your high school students? I think you're on mute. Sorry.
I'd like to give a little more background on me. I'm not a traditional career coach, meaning that I didn't come from education. I don't have an education background. I did 20 years in industry aviation, where I trained and hired flight attendants for a major airline. And so my lens comes from being industry ready, being prepared to, go into college focused on, not necessarily focused on what career, but the survival skills that it takes to actually navigate and complete a degree or even complete a career. As the job that I worked previously did not require a career, but it was a high paying industry. And it did support persons who may never have would have been able to get a degree. So for me, when I'm assessing my kids, exposure, exposure, exposure. I live in a rural community, and we're kind of marginalized with the jobs that the students see as successful. Right now, we're going through, and we have been for a while, welding and nursing, which there's nothing wrong with those career paths. But we have so many other careers that are lacking, especially in aviation, as I come from there. So I know that we need 100,000 pilots and all of these other things. So it's just getting the kids exposed. A lot of these kids don't even they don't even begin to think that there's something that they can do. So if I can get them to touch it, feel it, see it. I mean, I'm kind of an anomaly. I'm sorry, I can't speak today. It's strange for me to be a Black flight attendant in Selma, Alabama. I started at 23. Sometimes I think that when I bring out my pictures and stuff, they're like, are you serious? You did this? Like, this is a job that you could do. And I'm like, absolutely. This is a job that all of us could have. You could be, it's a real thing to actually put the fuel in there. It's real to be a pilot. These are not people that are just kind of fake. These are real people. They're people sitting in towers telling you where the planes to go. So for me, it's the simple part of exposure. I said it before, representation matters. If you're poor, representation matters. You need to know, I don't care what color you are, you need to know that this is something that you can do, and that it doesn't require you to be of superstar status, or to have the most likes on social media. These are real people, and real people are doing these things. I hope I answered the question. I kind of got on a tangent, but I'm sorry.
No, I understand. When I used to work primarily with Latinx students, sometimes we were talking about my major, and they're like, "Oh, social work. I thought they only took kids away from homes, and they didn't know what else our degree, does." Like I was there with them, teaching them about careers and how to get to college and all of that. So I really understand what you were saying about, representation does matter to these students as well. Thank you. Dr. Payne, so let me see. How can high school educators and community college work together more effectively to support students' career explorations?
I would definitely suggest with high schools and community colleges, we need to do a better job of making sure that high schools and students know they can visit a community college on a tour. So people don't realize that two-year colleges do tours, just like UNA does tours. And we have student ambassadors, and we have staff that are trained in customer service who want to provide these tours. And when we do the tours, community colleges need to do a better job of taking you to not just places that are CTE, career technical. We also need to take you over so you see where English 101 is taught, where you see where business is taught. Wallace has the flight school, where the planes are. If we're taking you to the enterprise, we need to show you where the airline mechanics works, where our hangars are. So making sure that we're taking a more comprehensive approach to show you the core classes and where they're taught and how they transfer to a four-year college and university in state and out of state, and also still making sure we show you the CTE. Because two-year schools, we definitely push CTE, but at Jeff State, more than half of our students are transitioning to a four-year college or university. So they don't know what we offer until they cross the threshold to register for classes. I would also say webinars such as this, having the entities include two-year schools. I love it when we're on a webinar and we have two-year schools, we have high schools, and we have four-year schools, because it's supposed to work in a circle where we're all together. They're going to go from high school to industry, or they're going to go from high school to industry in a 2-year, or from a 2-year to a 4-year. So if we're taking that cyclical approach, then we'd all be working in tandem instead of thinking we're in competition. So I would say that definitely taking advantage of webinars and taking advantage of doing the tours, and we also do virtual tours. So four-year colleges and universities are doing a job of providing virtual tours, where two-year schools do it as well. So we try to make it accessible, so tapping into that accessibility.
Dr. McCrillis, so what tools or assessments do you recommend for students who don't know what career path to explore?
Okay, so I can talk about a couple that we use. I know not everybody's going to have access to those. There's a couple of public free ones as well that I'll mention, but one of the ones that we use is called Focus 2. And it's made up of 5 different assessments. So one is a personality assessment, a values assessment, interest, skills, and includes a leisure assessment, because that's a big thing, right? Is our work-life family balance. I know that's the hot topic of conversation, and it is long needed to be, in my opinion. But that's but what's nice about that is students can ask of Focus 2, what are the outcomes? What are my employment or my occupational or major outcomes based on any one or a combination of any 5 of those assessments? And we know from research that when you are in an occupation or in a role that is in alignment with your personality and values, especially, it doesn't guarantee success, but you are much more likely to be satisfied in that role, which if you're satisfied, you're much more likely to be successful in a role than if you're unhappy and disgruntled daily. So that's one of the tools that we use to help students kind of navigate and find, where's my personality fit into what jobs are best suited for me, and my values, especially those 2. That one we do pay for. There is a free 16 personalities that's based on Myers-Briggs, the MBTI, that's free. Online, you just type in 16 personalities and go to it, and it will give you your personality code at the end, and then it will decode your personality and tell you what types of occupations or careers are best suited for your personality. How do you deal with relationships? What are ideas for personal growth? So that's a free one that you can use. One of the other tools we use is called UConnect, and it's essentially a repository of about 10,000 videos where they have actually gone on site and interviewed people in the job, how they got there, what they love about it, what they don't like about it, what's challenging, what's hard, what's been the key to their success in that role. And although it's not a hands-on on-site exposure, they do go into the workplace, and so it lets you see from a real person what day to day is like. I doubt that you have to pay for that. I'm sure there's 10,000 YouTube videos as well that probably do similar things. But those are some resources or tools that we use here at the university to expose students.
I have used the 16 personalities on students, and sometimes you would feel like they're surprised on like their own personality sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that about myself." So, yeah, fun.
I did forget to mention there is another free one, the ONET interest profiler as well. That one's free online. If you type in Holland Code or ONET interest profiler, you'll get there. And that one is, if any of you are not familiar, it's 60 questions, and asks you, do you like or not like that activity? And at the end, it will give you a work personality profile and take you to my next move and give you many of the same, much of the same information as far as careers and pay and outlook and those type things as well. Sorry, forgot to mention that one.
No worries. Dr. Pan, I have a similar question about like resources or tools that Jeff State, provide to help students discover career interest before they commit to like a program or something.
Okay, so we definitely use similar tools. I am familiar with 16 personalities. I will say one of the things, in another life, I was a mental health counselor. So we use 16 personalities, not just with 18-year-olds. We also use it with people that are 50 plus that are coming back, because personalities typically, they don't change. They're pretty static. We also have a career interest inventory tool that is sponsored by the Alabama Community College system, that's on every community college's website, that's a part of the system. And there is a shorter version that asks you about 16 to 24 questions. And then there's a more detailed version that can ask you up to 60 questions, but it does the same thing. It builds a personality profile, and it tells you which careers most likely fit your personality. And we always tell people the same thing that Dr. McCreely says: it's a tool for further research. The question they ask you is, do you like to work in the dark? Well, could be that they're going to say you're a miner. It could be they're going to say you're a grave digger. Doesn't mean you're going to be the best miner or the best grave digger. It's just saying you have personality similar to that. So I will say one of the things that we do stress in our career center and among our career coaches is that it's not, it doesn't predict that where you're going to be the most happiest, where you're going to make the most amount of money, and it's not a skills assessment. It's just saying your personality most likely links to this. And I say that because sometimes people get the tunnel vision and they focus on the one career that's there that they know they do not want to do. So we always say you don't have to do this. It's definitely a tool for more exploration. If we're dealing with high school students and we have more one-on-one time, I do something called alphabet soup, and I have never gotten to Z. Usually I'll get from A to F, and that's where I'm throwing out careers, and I'll give them one or two bits of information about their career. And I'm big on nonverbal. So we're going to look at your eyes. We're going to look at the smile. We're going to look at the head nods. So we're going to look at whether or not there's some excitement when we mention that career. And then we stop there and we start doing a little bit more career exploration. So I will say it depends on whether you're talking to the person one-on-one, whether you're talking to the person virtual, or whether it's somebody that says, I don't want to talk to you, I want an assessment. So part of that tells you something about their personality when they tell you what type of tool works best for them. I know some of our schools used to use a tool called Cooter. So that's one of the things that we did. We became familiar with tools that some of our high schools are using. So part of our job is find out what the high schools are using and see if we can mirror that, so there's some continuity in the information that you're getting. So like I said, it just depends on whether it's going to be in person, whether it's going to be virtual. And I'm sure if that, I'm going to say it correctly, fun, am I saying it? A part of it is we're trying to be adaptable. You have to be adaptable and flexible and find different tools that work with the different learning styles you're going to have.
Thank you. Fawn, I know sometimes students listen to their parents when they're, like thinking about careers. Their parents are like, I want you to be a doctor. And this is what, sometimes the student starts thinking about this. How do you involve parents in career pathway conversations?
I actually encourage the parents to think about what they wanted to be when they were 12 years old, 13-year-old, 14 years old, and how excited they were about that. My master's is in mental health counseling, and a lot of the times I feel like I'm playing the mental health game. And so I encourage them to take that same passion that they had when they were 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, before the dream kind of ended, and to give that to their students, not to actually impose what they want for them, but to embrace the idea. Like, let's start talking about it. Let's substitute some of the things that we may be watching on TV and curve it to, for me, I'll be honest with you, I'm a first generation college grad, and the big influence was The Cosby Show and A Different World. I knew that I was going to Hillman. That was my school. I didn't know where Hillman was, but I was going to A Different World. And so I was able to find my Hillman. And even in my room a lot, we will watch it's on Netflix right now. And the kids will say, I didn't know that that was a show. And I'll say, it's probably because you're busy watching reality TV. And so what I'll do when I'm having the chats with the parents, we have some programs that will actually allow the parents to enroll. I came from the courts. I worked there briefly, and one of the judges would ask the parent to enroll with the student. If the parent didn't have a GED or something like that, she'd say, hey, take the next step. I kind of just took that model and I try to get the parents to take the next step with the kids. Like, let's realize your dreams. Let's get those moving again, so that you're not imposing those on the children, but that you're actually just kind of working with them. So I try to encourage all of us to work together, without the parents losing sight that this is focused on the children, but I also know that we all need wins. And if the parents are getting a small win, then the kids will get a small win and the whole family will win.
Yeah, Mary, can I add one thing? It's going to be brief.
Yeah.
One of the things that we also do is sometimes we'll ask, especially in a group setting, we'll say, what are some employers that you like to work for? And let's say if somebody names Disney, then we're going to tell them 4 or 5 different employee types that work at Disney. So we're going to talk about accounts payable, accounts receivable. We're going to talk about maintenance, because then you have to have people that are tech certified to keep the AC running in the restaurants. We're going to talk about people that may be electricians or electrical assistants, because they have to keep the fun rides working. So that's a backdoor way to get them to thinking about the different type of employees that an industry may hire when they name the industry, and then you're prepared to give 4 or 5 different employee types, and then varying levels of educational experience that may go with that.
Thanks. And I know, Fawn, like I probably will ask you this question, but to Dr. Payne and Dr. McCrillis, if you feel free to jump in, how do you present like trade school apprenticeships and gap years as variable options to those students that are like, I really don't think college is for me right now, or maybe I don't want to go to college right now. So how would you talk about these conversations with your students?
We're actually going to the 2-year schools. We just visited Lincoln Tech in Nashville. I'm trying to make more partnerships with 2-year technical schools. It's about maximizing your potential. I'm having them do, career exploration through Learning Blade. It's like Dr. Payne said, I want them to know all of the different parts. Like, I know that they know the welding side, but do you also know that, it takes, the plumbers and all of these things. I just want them to not be so focused on the one job. But it is definitely my goal. And again, I'm not in education, so I'm new to education. I really didn't understand the territorial side of community colleges, because for me, I was like, let's go to every 2-year college. Like, we're going everywhere. And then I kind of got stopped in my tracks, and it was like, wait a minute, you got to start here first. And I'm like, what if it's not offered there? I have kids that want to be sonogram technicians, and I think that's great. So I'm like, let me take them to Montgomery. So I'm kind of lobbying so that our kids will get the most impact, because my community is a 2-year college community. Our kids need money and they need it now. They need careers and they need it now. Now, later on, they may be able to build on their certifications and things. But the reality is that a lot of them need housing security now. They need food security now. So they need to be able to work within 2 years to be able to secure their jobs, for themselves to be successful. So I'm definitely encouraging visiting. I've made a great relationship with Lincoln Tech in Nashville. I'm trying to look for schools that actually the two-year schools that actually can provide housing. Because a lot of the times my kids won't have cars going into school. And so they'll need a two-year school that offers what they need with supportive supportive living. But also just getting them focused on what they actually want to do. Because a lot of them will go into a field, I mean, and they won't know. So they'll get a two-year degree and I'm always shocked when my kids say, well, I didn't know, like I was choosing this, but I didn't know that it wouldn't lead to this. And then you end up not doing anything that you wanted to do. So it kind of goes back to exposure, clarifying what the career actually is, what the path is when you get to this career, and just acknowledging that two-year schools matter. Building on the schools. It's okay to start at a community college, be exposed and realize, hey, I want to go on further or get your certificate. I just want to always meet them where they are, if that makes sense.
I don't know if anyone wanted to add anything to that.
I agree with everything that was said. One of the things we do if we get somebody that's interested in a gap year, or like Juan said, if they have to immediately go to work, is we do talk about the fact that there is flexibility and accessibility with classes being online. So we talk about taking that English class or taking that math class and taking 1 or 2 classes per semester. Because I tell people the education is the end goal, whether you get it by the time you're 25 or whether you get it by the time you're 30, because unfortunately life happens. So not everybody's able to go immediately to college or to graduate with that 4-year degree by the time you're 22. So another thing that we do is we may talk about ways to get a class or a program paid for that doesn't necessarily utilize their Pell Grant or doesn't require them to take out a student or parent loan. Some of the high schools on here may be familiar with ACE, that replace Ready to Work. So if you take an ACE class that's linked with a community college, it's online, then students get 1 free credit class at that college. So we talk about the different ways that we can still incorporate the gap year, incorporate them working. That's what we want to talk about on the job experience. So if somebody's telling me, I really want to be a chef, and we know we have a culinary department, then that's where our career center comes into place, and we'll help them get a job at a restaurant, because we know the restaurant typically may allow them to go and take the food service prep course, which is a mini certification you get in a couple of days, and maybe they'll let them take some culinary classes and pay for it. So part of what we do is to figure out is what we can do to further assist, taking into account the life circumstances that you have. And that's when you take the holistic approach to helping a student. And on our end, speaking for all the educators, it just takes more of us asking the right questions to figure out the right answer.
Yeah, I was just going to echo Dr. Payne on that. I I don't, being in the institution, I don't have a lot of those conversations with students. So I feel I'm not quite qualified to answer that question, but ones that I do have, um, is echoing Dr. Payne, is that traditional college student is just that, it's a stereotype. You never stop learning. It's never too late. I mean, I went back at 40 and I had people in their 60s in my classes. You know, it's a lifelong journey, and that's what I try to communicate to students that may be feeling the need to step away or take some time away, or go to part-time, or whatever the situation, whatever that life situation has come about. So just echoing that communication.
So, Dr. McCrellis, what are some best ways that high school students can like test some career path before committing to an actual, like, you're working in a university, so like what are some ways that they can probably like jump into a career?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks probably a little different for high school and college students, of course, but just a echo fan from earlier, exposure is the key. Whatever it is, I mean, if it's just for example, we have a major discovery fair that we do on campus, and several high schools come, and so they get to have conversations with students, ambassadors, and faculty members that are teaching in those disciplines, and learn um, what does it take to major in this discipline? What are career opportunities in this discipline? What does it look like? Where are your students going and getting hired? So any opportunity they have to attend fairs like that on campus, community job fairs. I know Shoals Chamber of Commerce here in our area puts on a community job fair. Um, you don't have to be an adult to go. It's go and have those conversations with those organizations that are there and attending, and start making those connections and gaining that information. Um, Informational job interviews, job shadowing, taking a part-time job. I know my own son, for instance, the whole growing, I mean, he asked for law books when he was 8 years old for Christmas and was going to be a lawyer his whole life until he did an internship at an attorney's office for a summer in high school and decided that was not the path anymore. So just having that exposure to that and saying yes in school, being part of organ clubs or organizations that take those field trips, that do those industry tours, that expose them to different industries and leaders in those industries. Just say yes, and exposure, and even volunteer opportunities. I know a lot of the nonprofits are always looking for volunteers. If that's something you're interested in the social work or psychology areas, and nonprofits are always looking for volunteers. And those are great ways to make connections and get exposure in those industries. So just saying yes and looking for opportunities.
And just to finalize our panel discussion today, I want to ask each one of you, what is advice that you would give a high school educator about helping students explore and choose career pathways that align with their interests and goals? So whoever wants to start us off.
I'll start off. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Payne. Please.
Okay, thank you. Well, one of the things we all know is that high school counselors and career coaches may have one of them per every couple of hundred students. Also know there are some career coaches that travel back and forth between schools in the same system. So I would definitely tell them, A, don't feel bad if you can't talk to every student one-on-one. Because honestly, that's the nature of the position. Because they have to be there themselves mentally and deal with those type of things. And the second thing is, I would say, because we live in such a technology age, and now even kindergartners can operate a smart device, is take advantage of those online tools that do career assessments. Because if you have a student that takes the 10 to 15 minutes to do the career assessment, chances are that's going to be the student that can pull the time aside to speak to you or to ask you those questions. I'm not necessarily a big proponent of AI, but the great thing about it is when they're taking those interest tools, AI will generate something and they can use a chat feature. So that's where linking up with your 2-year colleges, linking up with your 4-year colleges, because if we know you have students that may be interested in coming here, technically, we can give you access to those tools. If we know you have dual enrollment students here, then that's a way for us to give you access to those tools if your system doesn't have it. So they can do that online career interest inventory. The AI can come back and answer some questions, and then eventually you circle back around and you can follow up with them. So it buys you time because it gets the student the immediate assistance they need. Is doing in a forum that they recognize with just technology, and it still allows you to come back in and follow up with them and answer any real world questions they may have.
On, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Can you repeat the question for me? I think that
Yeah, so just like final advice for like educators that are I'm sorry, like helping explore and choose career pathways that align with their interests and goals.
Yeah, I hate that I keep saying this, but again, I'm still very new to education. And I think that I take a holistic approach to this, where sometimes, a perfect example, one of my students, I call him my Thurgood Marshall. He's a fighter and an arguer, and everybody kind of hates him. But I'm like, you guys listen to what he's saying. Listen to him. I'm sorry, my light keeps going out. Listen to him and encourage him to write, encourage him to channel that energy somewhere else. I've just been able to put my hands on, and I'm one of those career coaches that split between schools. And we have a great need, and I can't wait until the state understands that we probably need one in every school and a social worker in every school and all of those other things. But I think we have to start at the holistic part of it. And I know sometimes we get compassion fatigue and sometimes we get teacher fatigue. I know that we get all of those things, but if we can just stop for a minute and actually see that kid, see the potential that's there, and not really see the behavior as much as what the outcome of the behavior may give us. I would just encourage teachers and educators to do that. And I know that we don't always have time to do it, but that would be my word of encouragement.
All right, my turn, I guess. So I don't see a lot of high school students, but I do see a lot coming right out of high school into their first year. And I do see a lot of them that feel this tremendous pressure, like I have to decide what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I'm 18 years old. And so I guess my little piece of advice is just um, to encourage curiosity and encourage them uh, to explore that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change careers. I've changed about 4 or 5 times. I don't know if that's a good thing that I'm in this role or a bad example. I don't know which one it is, but I do have experience changing careers, so I can talk to them about that. So, because you just don't see those 20 and 30-year careers anymore. Um, and honestly, like was said earlier, your personality is probably not going to change. It does tend to be pretty static, but your interest might change. And, you know, what was things that you value at 20 or early 20s may change when you're in your 30s and you have a family and you have children, or life circumstances have changed. Um, and so your interests may change at that point, and it's okay. And know that that's probably going to happen. I don't think anybody ever told me that when I was 18 or 19 or 20. I thought I had to decide what I was going to do for the next 40 years of my life until I retired at 65, like everybody, and it just, life doesn't happen or work that way. And so I guess I just think back on things I wish I was told or exposed to. And so that would be one. Be curious. It's okay to change.
Yeah, I know. Like, I had one student once tell me, like, I'm so stressed because I'm already expected to know what I want when I graduate from high school. And I was like, you don't have to know. It's fine if you don't know. So that is very true. Students are stressed to think that they need to know what they need to do after high school, but in reality is I was like, I changed my major many times too. So you are right on that. I want to thank yeah, Dr. Were you gonna say something?
Oh no, I was just going to say I've been in many different roles. I mean, I've been from a police officer to a banker to in higher ed, and none of those experiences were wasted. I've carried over skills from each of those roles into every role that I've been in. So I feel like sometimes they feel like, well, I'm going to waste my time if I'm doing something and I change my mind. None of it's wasted, and I communicating that no experience is wasted to them.
Thank you so much to everyone, to all the panelists today, Fawn, Dr. Payne, Dr. McCrillis. Thank you so much for joining us um, in this wonderful conversation. I've seen a lot of likes and hearts, coming in. So I'm sure all of the educators are very happy to hear what you all shared with us today. I am going to continue sharing my screen. I just wanted to share a few more things with you all. Um, just a resource that would be linked in this PowerPoint um, that kind of like shows in-demand occupations for students. They this this particular PDF is divided into the career clusters, the 16 career clusters. It does show like the average annual openings and salaries. So sometimes students are interested in what the earnings are like. So this is a great opportunity for them to kind of see what different careers are there as well. Sometimes they don't know and they're like, oh, what is that? And then they start researching and they can, get a little familiar with other careers that they probably haven't heard of yet. So you'll get that in our follow-up email. And I know that we've been asked before about how to support mixed status students. So this includes undocumented students or students that do have a social security number but might have some limitation on status, so such as like TPS or DACA, which is not really open, but just in case you do end up working with students in those cases, there are some resources that could kind of help you guide some of these students. So one of the biggest resource that I've used in the past would be higher ed, the immigration portal. So there is a map where you can go ahead and click and select on the state, and you'll see many like restrictions, especially because in Alabama, we do have restrictions for students that are undocumented. So you'll be able to click what restrictions are there by state, especially when it comes to licensure, because we are a state where a lot of these restrictions do happen. So you'll be able to click on those resources. You'll able to see what the professional license requirements are for each of the the certificates that maybe students are interested in going into a career. So you'll see what the student may need for that. And a lot of times, what I like to tell students is if there is an opportunity for you to go ahead and probably do go into one of these academies and learn about a profession there. A lot of like how we heard earlier, a lot of these skills are always being used by, they could always use it later on in their lives in other professions, even if they go into professionals such as like restaurant business, or a lot of times these students end up going into constructions or these professions that don't limit them as much as these other professions do. And then the one last resource that I like to share would be this 1000 Degrees has a whole like resource page where students can go ahead and look up career pathways that they can take. A lot of times these career pathways are like entrepreneurship, and it does guide students. It's not legal advice, but it does have like guidance on how to get into these entrepreneurship roles into the future. So these will be linked for you all to have. So I don't know if we have any questions.
I think it was mostly comments in the chat, Ciamara, but a lot of folks have included some links to the assessments and the career quizzes. We'll make sure to also include those in the follow-up email too.
So just some reminders of future webinars. We do have one coming up on college admissions 101 in-state colleges on October 22nd at 10:30 a.m. We do have a Scholarship 101 webinar on November 5th. And then we have our Catch for College Advanced FAFSA Beginner and Experience on November 18th and November 19th. So don't forget to register at alabamapossible.org/events for all of these. And then I'll ask May if we can go ahead and pull up thank you. As always, you can always tell your students, families about our help desk. We can, if they have any questions on college planning, admissions, financial aid, they can always call us at 334-316-6155. And as always, stay connected with us through our website, alabamagoestocollege.org, our phone line, 334-316-6155, or you can always email us at algoestocollege@alabamapossible.org. And I just want to go ahead and thank our panelists for today. Fan, Dr. Payne, Dr. McCrillis, thank you for wonderful conversations, and we hope to see you soon.